You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
We now wander off the beaten path with an update from the Reefer Reporter.
Hello and welcome to the Reefer Reporters. It's September the 8th, 2022, and we are live from the Fake Legacy 420.com news desk on our YouTube channel, Twitter, as well as our Facebook pages. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Al. How are you today?
Not too bad. Just for everybody to know, today I'm filling in for Cindy, because Cindy she's traveling. She's on holidays for a few days, and she's
on her way to you.
Yeah, that's right. She's headed my way, and I'll probably I'm more likely we'll see her Sunday at the Karma Cup. Talking about seeing Cindy, the two of you actually met in person yesterday, didn't you?
We did. First time I've ever met her in person. Obviously, I've met her on here many times, but first time I met her in person. Very nice lady, and I wish her safe travels.
That's good. Yes, safe travels always. And from what I know of her, what her plans are, I think she's going to have a good time. Going to visiting people and stuff like that, and meeting some people probably like myself, and more likely she'll see Green Irene at the Karma Cup as well. And meet in person. I don't know if they have in the past or not. So
I have no idea. I know she seems very, very genuine, and I think she'll have a lot of fun. She likes to be around people. I think.
Yeah. Now, update me on what's going on with your house. I know your renovations are done. You have it for sale.
House is for sale. Many showings. No offers. Not one.
Yeah.
All positive feedback, but that doesn't equate to any dollars yet. So,
no. Well, eventually.
I hope it's. I didn't miss the window, and that's what we were worried about the whole time. So, what do you do, right?
Yeah, and interest rates just went up again. So
yeah, and I'm on variable, so mine goes up as it goes up. I don't want to lock in because I'm selling the house. It doesn't make sense to lock in and then pay them the extra money, right?
That's right.
I might end up paying it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hope you get it sold soon.
So
the fact
do
that
I.
people are seeing it is good news, right?
We have showings almost every day.
Yeah. Oh, well, excellent. That's good news. Talking about news, let's get on with our news and our first story of the day. And the headline reads: Tilray meets German authorities to draft adult use pot regulations, according to Mugglehead magazine.
And Tilray Brands Incorporated met with German regulators on a policy roundtable to come up with adult use pot regulations in the country. On Tuesday, the leading cannabis producer announced that it had a meeting with a German narcotic drug commissioner at the Federal Ministry of Health, Burkhard Bleinert, where he presented a plan for adult use cannabis legalization and reassured a draft of the regulation will be presented in the upcoming months. Other participants included Christine Luchte, who is a drug policy spokesperson and member of the Bundestag Finance Committee representative and member of the Bundestag, Carlos Casper, and Martina Stam, who is a member of the Bundestag and a representative of the Committee on Health.
All those different party names, that's not used to them.
No.
Tilray's chief strategy officer, Denise Folczek, says that we are honored to have initiated this high-level exchange on one of the world's most important cannabis endeavors. As a leading global cannabis company, Tilray Brands have unmatched experience partnering with governments and regulators to help develop responsible cannabis regulations that protect the health and safety of patients and consumers, as well as supporting significant economic growth in countries it operates, according to what she says.
And Tilray Europe's managing director, Sasha Mielsarek, said the company is a market leader in Germany and Europe, and the company's highest priority is to lead with the highest quality control standards that are consistent and reliable for cannabis consumers. Established quality certifications such as European Good Manufacturing Practice already enable manufacturers industry-wide to provide patients and consumers with cannabis of the utmost quality and safety, Melisarek said.
Yeah. They say that these standards have proven themselves to be everyday medical cannabis practice and can be considered best practices for recreational market. So there you go.
Yep.
Tilray, keep counting Tilray. Tilray is helping the German government come up with the legalization plan.
And we're seeing this country after country after country, all in a row.
We sure are. There's no doubt about that.
Except for England just banned Bermuda from legalizing.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, we don't have it on the stories for today, but yeah, I'm sort of not surprised because of what they're finally getting some action in on the kid front. The kids, that was another story with Billy, where they've been dealing with getting access to oils for children. So
that's in Europe, in England,
in the UK. Yeah, they were actually getting it shipped to them by Canada at one time, and that didn't go over well. So the fight continues, but they're getting access there now to children. There's like 90 children or something. They're getting free access to cannabis oil. So
their prime minister stated she was pro legalization before she was elected, and the first thing she did was refuse Bermuda permission to legalize.
Well, let's hopefully with the change of leadership, maybe that'll change.
We'll find out
the timing. Maybe that was based on the old guard. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. All right, let's get on to our next story. Headline from MJ Biz Daily says that Ramm Pharma buys Polish hemp firm from TGOD for $1.2 million.
Toronto-based Ramm Pharma Corp acquired Hemp Poland from the Green Organic Dutchman Holdings for 1.2 million Canadian dollars in cash. In a news release, Ramm said the acquisition provides access to Hemp Poland's distribution network, recognized premium brands, hemp oil extraction technologies, and an additional synergistic foothold into the European market.
This is the second move by Ramm into Europe, following its acquisition of Sicily, Italy-based Canopar Corp in 2021. The Green Organic Dutchman, also known by its ticker symbol on the Canadian exchange TGOD, has been trying to unload the subsidiary for months. And the sale is the latest asset to be sold by the Canadian licensed producer for significantly under cost.
Wow. In 2018, Mississauga, Ontario-based TGOD agreed to buy Hemp Poland, a promising business based in Elblag, Poland, for $20.4 million in cash and stock. At the time, the Canadian company said it planned to invest another $13.5 million in the business to fund product development and European expansion.
So they bought this business. They say was worth $20 million for $20 million, and they sold it for 1.2.
Yeah.
Holy smokes!
That was a really good business to invest in.
That's a lot of money for counting the losses. Like they basically, by the sounds of it, just gave it away. Counted their losses, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah. All right, on to our next story. This headline comes from StratCan. Should Alberta move to a direct delivery model? They ask.
British Columbia's direct delivery program, which allows certain BC-grown cannabis products to bypass the liquor distribution branch's Richmond warehouse, is under scrutiny from industry observers. In particular, there have been some discussion as to whether or not Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis should move forward with its own direct delivery program. AGLC continues to look to evolve our role in the marketplace, as illustrated by our move to exit direct to consumer sales earlier this year. The AGLC spokesperson told StratCan that evolution will continue over the coming months as we explore all avenues to grow the industry within Alberta. AGLC is always looking to evolve its role in the marketplace.
Yes. For proponents of direct delivery, that cautious comment, which I'll read here in a second, Well, here it is. Between the current number of LP licenses issued, the number of still awaiting approval by Health Canada, and overproduction by all licensed producers, the supply of cannabis is outstripping demand.
Yep.
So, and that was could be cause for some optimism. Part of the critique of the present model is that it was designed for a time when the province felt it had a role to ensure fair distribution in case of uncertain supply.
And the current system now serves no purpose for retailers, says Ryan Roach, the owner of Lake City Cannabis with locations in Calgary and Chestermere. It did when we had product shortages, but we don't have those shortages now, other than those created by the system itself. AGLC echoes Roach's observation, which could be interpreted as an acknowledgement that some of the previous arguments against direct delivery no longer apply. Between the current number of LP licenses issued and the number still awaiting approval by Health Canada and the overproduction by all licensed producers, the supply of cannabis is outstripping demand, says AGLC spokesperson. It is having significant consequences in industry related to pricing and the viability of participating industry stakeholders.
In Alberta at present, the AGLC operates a centralized warehousing system. Sounds here as Ontario.
Yeah.
If it were to move to direct delivery, it would likely assess other models. In the case of BC, only BC-based cultivators that produce up to 3,000 kilograms a year qualify. That simplifies matters, but can also result in some grumbling from larger LPs in other provinces. Or Alberta could follow the more open example of Saskatchewan and Manitoba, where governments don't have warehouse cannabis, and out-of-province LPs have to access to sell directly to retailers or private distributors.
I kind of favor that example of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. I think it should be open to anybody who wants to do it and no centralized system.
Well, yeah, we've seen some pretty good examples lately of why the central warehouse isn't a good idea. And that's in BC when they had the strike. And then here in Ontario when there was the computer problem, the computer hack.
Yeah, and they couldn't ship out what they were supposed to ship. Yeah,
they weren't able to ship. So, and there was two situations in Ontario. So there was a breach thing previously, but it didn't affect the delivery, whereas the second one did, and same with BC. So there's two examples.
Yeah, and I don't like the BC system right now, where they still have to pay the full pop to the government that they would if it went through the warehousing system.
Well, that's the same here in Ontario. Even the guys doing the farm gate, they have to still give their share. Still has to go to the government.
I don't like that system. I don't think it's right.
Neither do I. All right,
I would be okay with a private distribution and warehousing system in Alberta, says Roach. The concern is that one company could buy up all the cannabis, but at present there is more than we need. It also doesn't have the shelf life of alcohol. Alberta could model direct delivery more closely to its liquor model, where an AGLC subcontracts to a private company, Connect Logistics Services Incorporated, which warehouses and distributes spirits, wine, coolers, and imported beer. The challenge with a centralized system, even if privatized, is that it can also present a single point of failure. We have seen disruptions due to labor action in BC, and with the recent cyber attack on OCS's third-party operated distribution center, Domain Logistics. I think the problem comes down to they're putting all the cannabis through one warehouse. These problems can be solved if there's warehouses, distributed around the province.
Yeah, but if there's a cyber attack on that company, it doesn't matter where if they've got 5 locations, it's on the whole company usually, right? So,
well, see, this doesn't happen.
Whereas if the LPs are dealing directly with the businesses, then they have, it'd be harder, obviously, to do a cyber attack and shut them down.
Yes. Yeah. There's more access there.
Exactly.
Instead, it might be best to work with a hybrid system in which the provincial government allows for multiple private warehousing and direct delivery options, while possibly still maintaining a presence of its own. A lot of growers, especially small growers, would see great benefit from direct delivery, says Roach. It makes it easier for them to release products faster. For a producer, they wouldn't have to wait for the AGLC to cut a purchase order, then get listed, then ship out. These things take weeks, but they could take days. Unfortunately, we are dealing with government inertia, given that there really is no argument against it.
The current model not only lacks flexibility, but also doesn't scale well. Direct delivery in Alberta could feasibly move more products by leveraging consignment model, which is already used for liquor. We already know that the consignment model works fantastically for liquor in Alberta, according to Roach. It makes a lot of money for the government. Really, it's no brainer to migrate in that direction.
If they already have the system and it's working, why wouldn't they just do that?
It makes sense to me.
Yeah. Last March, Alberta shifted online sales of cannabis from the provincial online store to online retailers. The process, however, has had its fair share of glitches, most related to appropriate age gating and age verification measures, which may have dampened enthusiasm to move quickly with another big shift in the distribution model. The ability of retailers to offer online sales in Alberta is a great thing, but the one area for improvement is a consistent standard of age gating across Canada, which needs to come from Health Canada, says Amber Craig, Chief Merchandising Officer at 420, an Alberta-based cannabis retailer with 32 operating locations. Each province is interpreting the Cannabis Act in their own way, which is leading to differing standards in each province. Very true.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, these age gates, like I know, and they're saying not many people were using them. Well, I know I talked to people, and they didn't want to give up their ID and all that type of information in order to purchase them from the stores. They wanted to go into the stores instead.
I like the personal thing. I like to see it. I like to smell it. I would like to touch it. They won't let you, but I'd like to.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. They won't let you touch it.
No.
Okay. The ability for retailers to offer online sales in Alberta is a great thing. I think you've already read that. Yes, you did. However, within Alberta's present distribution model, which serves 765 licensed retailers, 249 of which are operating online, AGLC appears to have been working hard to ensure that products get to the hands of retailers and their customers. And according to Craig, it says that from our perspective, fulfillment rates have been quite high. We are seeing a lot of innovation coming through the order form each week.
And the lessons learned from the rollout of online sales could apply to direct delivery, particularly in the context of engagement with individual retailers. The biggest lesson from the rollout of online sales has been the importance of working closely with retailers to help them meet the requirements, says the AGLC spokesperson. We continue to work with them to ensure compliance is maintained. While those points are well taken, the biggest argument for the shift to private online sales, as well as direct delivery, is to limit government involvement and to expand private sector opportunities. The government will always have a regulatory role, and changes can be problematic. However, even with the bumps in the road, they can be welcome.
Yep. Roach finishes off by saying, we don't need the AGLC to be our gatekeepers to determine what we bring to market. A poor product will lose, and a good product will win. Direct distribution is a model that works best for retailers, growers, and consumers alike.
Very true.
There you go. Yeah. So you see what happens. I know that people are saying the same thing here. They want to see a change here in Ontario on the way that it's being done.
Well, I think it wasn't rolled out properly across the country, but we are starting to get it right slowly.
Slowly. Takes time. Even when alcohol became legal after Prohibition, it wasn't. You couldn't even go to a bar even still at that point.
And we still can't.
Yeah. Well,
I've never been to a cannabis bar.
Yeah, I hope we get a cannabis lounge that sells cannabis before an alcohol bar after Prohibition. There's no doubt about that. So, all right, on to our next story. Headline says Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association launches with Rob Perot and Mary Jane Oatman.
A new organization, the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association, ICIA, has launched to focus on tribal markets in the cannabis industry. The ICIA will be led by cannabis entrepreneurs Rob Pirro and Mary Jane Oatman. What are we here?
Okay. There are a few half dozen cannabis industry groups in Washington, D.C., but none of them are focused on tribal cannabis markets. The Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association intends to change that.
Introducing the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association, Rob Pirro and Mary Jane Oatman.
I know Mary Jane. Mary Jane.
Good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've met her virtually. Very, very nice lady. Very, very, very active in the community and helping people left and right.
Well, good. I'm glad we have someone like that heading this new association. As first reported in Politico by Natalie Fertig, the founder of the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association and CEO is Rob Pirro, a cannabis entrepreneur and member of the Bad River Band of the Lake Superior tribe of Chippewa Indians in Wisconsin. Pirro is also founder and CEO of Indigenous, a holistic hemp producer, grower, and provider, and Pirro-Dim, an Indigenous-led media agency based in Wisconsin. Indigenous activist and publisher Mary Jane Oatman will be executive director and chief operations officer of the ICIA alongside Rob Pirro. As a member of the Nez Perce tribe, Oatman grew up faced with the struggles of cannabis legalization from a young age. Her grandparents were put in prison for growing cannabis on tribal land in the 80s. As such, he has become a staunch activist for the plant.
Mm-hmm. Big time. With a background in nonprofits, Mary Jane Oatman saw an opportunity in the cannabis industry to help protect Indigenous sovereignty through the preservation of Indigenous stories and founded the Indigenous Cannabis Coalition. She then founded THC Magazine in February of 2020 as a form of educational material, and she's working on finding the easiest way to increase access to THC Magazine. Currently, the magazine is available for a free download at our website, and I have seen it. It's a very nice magazine.
I'm going to have to look that one up now. This past 4/20, Oatman celebrated National Cannabis Day alongside 5 other tribal sovereign nations across the U.S. and Canada at the second International Indigenous Cannabis Calibration on record in the industry, hosted by Honeysuckle and collaboration of Indigenous cannabis activist groups, including Little Beach Harvest and the Shinnecock Indian Nation TILT Holdings, Connor Green, and others. Oatman's newest adventure lies with Pirro and the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association and her determination to ensure that the ICIA is advancing the inclusion and protection of tribal provisions in our nation's capital.
The new organization is starting with tribal partners primarily from Wisconsin, Michigan, Washington, and Oregon, but plans to be a resource for any tribe around the nation that is interested in the cannabis industry or already has a functioning cannabis market. Its mission will be twofold: providing resources to the tribal cannabis programs and of advocating for tribal interests at the state and federal levels. Pirro, who also wants ICIA to be a resource for tribes seeking answers to cannabis questions, from how to address outside companies that want to use tribal land to assisting tribal members interested in the cannabis industry who don't know where to start.
The ICIA team intends to give members of the association access to their network of Indigenous industry partners, advocacy groups, mentors, businesses, and aspiring entrepreneurs to help understand the intricacies of tribal, state, and federal policy when it comes to the plant, and to provide resources for tribal governments and Indigenous people to design and advocate for equitable cannabis policies, as summarized by Patrick Williams for CannabisBusinessTimes.org. That, I think, is what we're seeing as the biggest value added, Pirro said, to empower our independent tribal member-owned entrepreneurs to have a better understanding of the industry, and that there are mechanisms to help us be successful in this space. In short, the ICIA will create opportunities for Indigenous people in cannabis and empower the Indigenous community through policy, programming, and outreach initiatives.
I like how they have the word will underlined.
Will, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The ICIA's mission is a heavy one. Every tribe has a slightly different relationship with the U.S. government, and tribal relationships with each state range from good to downright ugly. That means every tribe faces a unique situation when it comes to their cannabis market, and the resources ICIA will need to provide will vary accordingly. Now, according to Perro, he says, we're trying to provide as many options as possible based upon the landscape we're currently looking at. That landscape cannabis fluctuating status of legality across the country, ICA wants to be of service to tribes no matter the status of the plant. So they'll go in and help people even where it's illegal. So that's good.
Yeah, and I think if they're on a reserve, there is no
Yeah.
illegal, because
Yeah.
it's up to them what's legal and what's
It's on
not.
their
Not
land.
the federal government. Yeah, they have
That's right.
independence. It's not a federal government thing as long as they're on that reserve.
Yeah.
Oatman asserts we have a long road ahead to advance our tribal communities in equality conversations, as many of our reservations still face unequal protections and disparate enforcement of laws regarding cannabis. In her opening statement, revealing herself as COO and executive director of the new association. At the federal level, ICIA is focusing on removing cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act. If and when that happens, Piro says every state is going to need to have a plan for what that looks like. And it still remains to be seen if or how the federal government will allow tribes to set their own rules. The same goes for the laws at the state level. And I hope they're successful because we've been waiting for that forever.
That's right. Oatman has announced ICIA's plan to host a historic gathering in Washington, D.C. on November the 16th or 15th and 16th of 2022. The Indigenous Cannabis Policy Summit, the executive director also notes the conflict with MJ Biz Con, but states that for our Indigenous community still battling federal descheduling, our focus and goals are to ensure that we are advancing the inclusion and protection of tribal provisions in our nation's capital.
Oatman Piro and the rest of the board of directors are excited to launch the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association and ultimately aim to create opportunities and equality for our Indigenous people while empowering our communities through policy, programming, and outreach initiatives.
Excellent.
Sounds like a great thing for me.
Yes. That was a good story. Good to see that that Mary Jane's involved in that. Like I said, as the article and as I know, very, very, into the cannabis community and very active in what she does. So.
From when she was a little baby, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, exactly. Those are some of the stories that I had heard. When I was talking with her and others online. So it was, it was a good experience. So meeting her. All right, on to our last story before we go to break. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, there we go. Headline says that 65% of the U.S. voters support giving cannabis companies banking access, according to Entrepreneur.
And according to the poll, a majority of U.S. voters believe banking access for cannabis businesses should be legal and would help reduce the risk of robbery and assault at the businesses. According to the Independent Community Bankers Association poll released on Tuesday, 65% of U.S. voters support allowing cannabis businesses to have access to financial services in states where cannabis is legal. The poll was commissioned by Morning Consult. The poll found that 71% of respondents agree that allowing cannabis businesses to access banking services would help reduce the risk of robbery and assault at the businesses. Another 55% said that some of the cannabis-related businesses owned and led by people of color, women, and the LGBTQ community, allowing for cannabis banking would help these underserved communities.
In a statement, ICBA President and CEO Rebecca Romero Rainey says the poll shows U.S. voters have made clear their current law inhibiting access to the banking system for cannabis-related businesses has a negative impact on local communities. ICIBA's Polling also found that more than 80% of the voters agree that businesses that operate exclusively in cash have a higher risk of robbery or theft. 62% believe that restricting cannabis-related businesses from accessing the banking system poses a threat to public safety. Oh, I agree with all this. 65% say that allowing cannabis-related businesses to access the banking system will help improve public safety. And 58% agree that a Senate vote on establishing a cannabis banking system harbor is important. It is.
I think that's I don't know. If they take it off Schedule 1, then they don't have a problem with the banks. The banks will not work with the cannabis industry on as long as it's on Schedule 1. That's it. They can't do it.
Change it.
Yeah, even if they give them a safe harbor, they're not going to do it.
They keep coming up with these proposals, and then the friggin' things die because there's not enough votes in the Senate.
It has to die. Until that's removed from Schedule 1, no bank is going to deal with the cannabis industry because each state sets their own things, and Texas is not going to set the same things as New York does. So all this is BS, and this is just talking points worth nothing.
Yeah,
it makes me crazy.
They've got to change it. It's you know, the people are speaking up. You know,
thank God. Yeah. Finally. Yeah. You know, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah.
I see.
It's affecting. It's not only affecting the U.S. It's affecting worldwide.
Yes.
Because so many countries are connected to that system, and they don't. You know, they like even here in Canada. You know, everything from large LPs to little stores have problems getting into a bank.
And they're threatening, the U.S. laws are threatening Canadian businesses too. It's a little crazy, you know. And then they're saying, "Oh, we'll give them a safe harbor." That's bullshit. Sorry.
Well, they've got to give the safe harbor's got to go to the businesses.
Yeah, but the safe harbor's no good because it's only good in one state, and then Texas is going to say no.
It's got to be federal. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be federal.
Yeah. They have to remove it from Schedule 1. That's the easiest thing and the best thing overall.
Thing they do, but you know, and actually, some are saying that there could even be done through an executive order. So,
I don't know if that would fly, especially in some of the southern states, some of the deep red states. But it would start the ball rolling.
Sure would. Sure would. All right, break time. Time to medicate. Glenn and I'll be right back after our medical session. You are watching the Reefer Reporters. We are live here on the Pace Radio Network. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Who has huge buds? You do. If you shop at BMA Hydroponics, attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888.
The only way to go.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Pace Radio is the people advocating cannabis education radio network.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP.
Catch the Reefer Reporters Mondays and Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, live here on the Pace Radio Network.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Hey, we're back from our medication session. At least I am anyways. I see Glenn's not back yet. And we are live on our YouTube channel, Twitter, as well as our Facebook pages. See, I think Glenn thinks we got a little extra longer break here today. I'm not quite sure. But I'll get started. And I'll see that when he comes in. He's probably maybe enjoying his medical session. That's what I'm going to guess here. All right. On to our next story, or our first story of our second half of the program here. Headline says that Air Force and Space Force consider changing cannabis policies for recruits. That's right. Exactly. This was interesting. The Air Force and Space Force are considering a recruitment policy change that would no longer automatically disqualify new recruits who test positive for cannabis. The Air Force Recruiting Service is considering changes to the cannabis policy. The Air Force Times reports under the policy update, recruits who test positive for cannabis would no longer be automatically disqualified. Major General Ed Thomas, a recruiting boss for the Air Force, told the Times that officials are considering waivers for positive THC tests at military entrance processing stations. Waivers. That's good stuff. It's unclear when the change will take place or how many people have been turned down due to a positive THC test. We have a very realistic today. We need the exercise common sense, according to Thomas. All service members, regardless of the branch they serve in, cannot use cannabis in any kind, including CBD. However, each branch can set its own rules on how to approach cannabis use among new recruits, the report says. The Navy has a pilot study underway evaluating a similar change where positive sailors that test positive for THC can retry after a 90-day waiting period. The Navy has granted waivers for cannabis use to trainees at Recruit Training Command for years, a Navy spokesman told them. 38 states and Washington, D.C. have legalized cannabis for medical use, while 19 states and Washington, D.C. have legalized adult use. More than half of all new recruits come from one of the states with adult use reforms in place, according to the report. So you're going to have people who are going to obviously, being that they're in states that have legal cannabis, that they're going to have people who are going to have been tested for it. Hey, good to see you back, buddy. What are you doing?
Sorry about that.
Glenn's just enjoying.
My time's way off.
Your time's way off. I guess it is. That happens. All right.
I think it's because I'm an hour ahead of you or something like that,
Yes. Well, yeah, we do have a different time zone. There's no doubt about that. All right. On to the next story. The headline on it reads NFL Hall of Famer Calvin Johnson continues to advocate for cannabis, according to Forbes.
Give me 1 sec here. Pop-ups going on. Okay.
Oh, nice.
In fourth or fifth grade, Calvin Johnson and his classmates were given an assignment. The students were asked what they want to do with their lives. A heavy question for preteen Johnson, who went on to become one of the greatest wide receivers in NFL history and a 2021 Pro Football Hall of Fame inductee. Didn't write, I want to be a professional football player. I said something like, help the masses, Johnson recalls, explaining his mother showed him his response recently.
In fact, his parents, Dr. Arka Johnson and Calvin Johnson Sr., told their son he needed A's and B's in school or he couldn't play sports. Not only did the younger Calvin achieve the success he needed in the classroom in order to play sports, he also achieved success on the field, which paved the way to his record-breaking NFL career and enshrinement in Canton, Ohio.
At Georgia Tech, Johnson, who majored in management with a background in building construction, spent one summer designing and building solar latrines to improve sanitation in Bolivia. It was a project he chose, helping out with design for environmentally friendly luxury condos less than a mile from campus. After his rookie season in the NFL, Johnson leveraged his education and platform to start the Calvin Johnson Jr. Foundation in 2008. The organization runs a leadership conference, football camp, and mentorship program. Come on, moving on here. Mentorship program risk use while supporting the need in Atlanta and Detroit.
Today, Johnson, who's 36, is continuing to help the masses through his work with Primitive, a Michigan-based cannabis research company he and former Lions teammate Ron Sims founded in 2021. Research company, interesting. The company partnered with Harvard University to research how cannabis can help people with CTE and chronic pain. It's crucial to be an advocate in this space, and it's hard to do it while we are playing ball, Johnson says. We were advocates then, but there's rules and regulations you have to abide by. Now that we're entrepreneurs and we can go out and start our own business, this is definitely a passion of ours. Not only do we use cannabis, but we saw it for what it was, which is medicine and a natural way of healing other than what was proposed.
And according to a National Institute of Health supported study, cannabis and hallucinogen use among young adults reached an all-time high in 2021. The proportion of young adults aged 19 to 30 who reported past year cannabis use reached 43% in 2021, an increase from 34% in 2026 and 29% in 2011. Coupled with the coronavirus pandemic and escalating political and social tension, the surge can also be attributed to cannabis being fully legalized and decriminalized in 19 states plus Washington, D.C., with other states permitting its medical usage.
Yeah. But rather than marketing bitten ear-shaped edibles, like Mike Tyson's, Primitive is a member of the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association, is advocating for favorable policy and regulations that help promote research and disseminate information on the health benefits of cannabis for treating chronic pain or mental or cognitive issues. Now, according to Johnson, he goes on to say that what we're doing with Primitive right now, we're trying to create innovative ways for people to apply the medicine. Johnson says that who utilizes cannabis as part of his weekly routine towards the end of his NFL career. And he says by doing so, we're able to attract new users because we're creating new ways to deliver the medicine or new ways to consume the medicine. It isn't about attracting people for the recreational use, but more for the quality of life aspect of it.
He's got a really good feeling for this, I think.
Well, yes, and we talked a lot about that last night, quality of life on the Pace Radio Show.
Yeah, it does change people's lives. I've seen it myself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and it also changes people's end of life. You know,
Yes. Yes.
it makes things a lot more palatable. Uh,
Yes. Exactly.
to help Primitive take the next step, the company partnered with indoor horticulture lighting company Foes. Not only do Foes lights help Primitive improve its energy usage and savings, it also results in higher yields. For Foes CEO and co-founder Brett Stevens, working with high-profile advocates like actor Jim Belushi and Johnson and Sims is a no-brainer because of how they view cannabis. What was most exciting was Calvin's outlook on the plant as medicine, Stevens says. We're in grows all over the world, and the people we're most excited to work with are the people who appreciate the plant on a level he does. He has a big voice, and he's doing it for the right reasons. We're aligned with our mission and vision and the values of what we're doing.
Yep. As soon as we get to know what was going on at Primitive, it was no brainer, and we want to be part of it. That's good stuff. There we go. Yes,
Yeah,
focusing on the medical end of it is it's good to hear when you hear about that end. And this is former professional athletes.
And that's where all the attention should go first before recreational use, I believe, anyway.
Yeah, but because you're always screaming, there's no studies. So it's good to see that there's companies that are doing research.
I also believe that almost all recreational use is therapeutic use. It's a way to relax.
A lot of people agree with you. I'll tell you. Lots of people. I know it was a discussion I saw recently on LinkedIn. Recreation, medical. What's the difference?
It's a very contentious subject. I mean, even before I knew I used it as medicine, I used it to calm myself, which is a medicine, I believe. A natural.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Correct. No doubt about that. All right. On to the next headline. This one is from the Fresh Toast. Are orange hairs on cannabis related to potency? They ask. What do you think?
Looking at the color of your cannabis can be a great indicator of strain quality, effects, and more. Here's what you need to know about orange hair on cannabis. Pardon?
Look at that hair. Look at that hair. Look at that bud, eh?
The bud's beautiful looking. The orange hairs are definitely the highlight of that bud.
Yeah, I'd say so too. Exactly.
We all know that one defining characteristic of cannabis is its gorgeous array of colors. And while we can all appreciate the beauty of a deep green nug, there's something special about those orange hairs. Orange cannabis hairs make many strains appear exotic and are something that has long intrigued cannabis users. No matter what strain of cannabis you choose, there are various tiny, colorful cannabis hairs found throughout the buds. But why do the orange hairs on cannabis exist? Let's take a closer look at this phenomenon.
There's some more bud.
Beautiful.
Cannabis plants have a similar anatomy to other plants. To understand why cannabis produces orange hairs, we need to familiar ourselves with the cannabis plant anatomy. Nodes, separation of branches from the stem occurs in these areas. For most nodes, buds grow and fan leaves develop. Colas, nice. Several buds are grouped very close together, usually near the bottom branch. Atop the main stem is the most significant and the largest cola. Bracts. The female plant's reproductive parts are encased in small teardrop-shaped leaves known as bracts. These are the locations from which the pre-flowers emerge just before they flower.
And calyx, the flower itself consisting of resin glands and buds. A protective layer of bracts surround the calyx, covering the plant's reproductive organs. Here, seeds are formed, resin glands and buds. The pistils. This is an orange hair protruding from the calyxes. Pistils are the female plant's sex organs, also known as stigmas. Pistils are one of the earliest signs that cannabis plant is beginning to flower. Trichomes. These bulbous resin glands create a frosty, sticky resin containing cannabinoids and terpenes. Cannabinoids and terpenes are present in greater concentrations in more resinous flowers. Orange hairs on weed?
Known as flower pistils, these orange hairs are what catch pollen from the plant or from the male plant. Pistils of the female cannabis plant serve as reproductive organs. Their purpose is to capture the pollen from male plants during blooming. Pollen is sucked back into the plant by the weed's hairs. Pollen pollinates or fertilizes pistils. Once it contacts them, the female plant will start producing seeds at that point. However, cultivars take away the male plants from the field during the growing season to suppress pollination, so the female plants can concentrate on producing flowers and not seeds. As a result, cannabinoids and terpenes are produced in greater quantities.
In flower production, clusters of pistils shoot from the main bud and arise to their maximum height, which allows them to collect pollen. During the final stage of the flower's development, the pistils have dried up and turned darker. As a result, they have receded into the plant somewhat. How do we know that the orange hairs and pistils are? Let's explore the orange hair on cannabis a bit more. Orange Kush strains readily produce fertile pistils, which are among the first signs that a cannabis plant is beginning to flower. The plant's female flowers grow from the bud or calyx, which is their base. Pistils are not always orange. While in the vegetative stage, the hairs are white, and as they approach the flower stage, they begin to change color. Originally yellow, they become orange as they enter the flowering stage.
Some flowers mature into vivid orange and purple strains with hues that are actually more red or brown in color. However, various strains can yield different results depending on how they are cultivated. In some strains, the pistils can take a pink or purple hue. The vibrant orange hues indicate something extraordinary has occurred, right? When you ask whether orange hairs on cannabis get you high, you're actually asking, do pistils contain THC? There's a common misbelief that buds covered with colorful hairs are more potent. However, this isn't accurate. At the flowering stage, pistils are crucial, but the trichomes is what contains the THC. So orange hairs on hairs don't get you high. The crystals on your cannabis are what do that.
Despite the widespread belief that colorful buds are more potent and will pack more punch, that's not necessarily true. While the pistils of plant are an integral component to its flowering process, they are not responsible for the strain's cannabinoid content. It is far better to focus on the trichomes instead. The reason ragweed has so little THC is because of its trichomes. On the other hand, due to its incredibly high resin content, dankweed has a frosty appearance due to its high concentration of trichomes. And there's an awesome looking picture there.
That bud looks frosty and purple.
It looks beautiful.
So they ask, why is cannabis purple? Good question some people would ask. The color of the purple does not indicate the strength contrary to popular belief. So why is it this color? According to its position in the spectrum, Athocyan, a water-soluble flavonoid, has different colors based on pH values. At low pH levels, it appears blue. At high pH levels, it appears purple. And at the highest pH level, it appears red.
I learned something new.
You sure do. As an indica strain, most purple strains of cannabis lock you into a couch and produce a heavy narcotic effect, ideal for relieving pain and promoting sleep. However, there has been recent breeding programs that combine purple strains with other genetics to reduce drowsiness effect while increasing the uplifting effect of sativas or hybrids.
As it turns out, the prettiest buds aren't always the most potent. So what should you look for when trying to determine THC potency? Trichomes or white crystals are a good indicator of potency and should be present in high numbers on potent buds. Have you started your cannabis wellness? Oh, that's a different one now.
Yeah. So there you go. If your hairs are orange, your hairs are just orange. They just look nice.
They look great.
Makes it, look pretty. That's what makes everybody go, oh, isn't that beautiful? Yeah, exactly.
But they have to be covered in white crystals. They have to be covered.
White crystals. Lots of white frosty crystals. That's what you want to see. That's where the THC is. It's not in the hairs. All right. So from that to another article from the French Toast. is there a legal dose of cannabis?
There is no lethal dose of. I've
Yeah.
heard this forever, and I think the only lethal dose of cannabis could be if an edible, maybe, or if a 1,000 pounds of cannabis fell on someone.
Yeah, if everything gets a number, at least a lethal dose number. I just can't remember what it's called. So like alcohol's got its number, tobacco's got its number, different products have got a number, and we may find out more on that as we go through this article because I haven't read it yet. But
there's no. Sorry.
Yeah, so it'll be like there's no documented deaths, so it's gonna be interesting. But I'm gonna say. I'm not going to say what I know what it is. Yeah, go ahead.
There's no lethal dose of cannabis. However, cannabis can contribute to deaths when consumed irresponsibly and or there is an underlying health condition. To die from a drug, one must overdose, which has never been observed with cannabis. Cannabis contains no chemical that is being shown to cause people to overdose and die. So the answer to the question is, can you die from weed is definitive. No, you cannot die from a weed-induced overdose. However, cannabis can contribute to death due to intoxication, an underlying health condition such as a heart condition. And cannabis has been a contributing factor in fatal car accidents. Research has found that from 2000 to 2018, the percentage of crash deaths involving cannabis increased from 9% to 21.5%. Wow.
And that could show consumption, but was that person impaired by that cannabis? Because that person could have consumed that cannabis 24 hours before.
Yeah, and I've experienced that. I personally did a drug test when I was a truck driver 31 days after the last time I had used cannabis, and I still tested positive.
There you go. Perfect example right there. So yeah, it doesn't mean that the person is impaired, but yeah, there's someone, especially somebody who's new to cannabis, and they venture out driving and they're really buzzed. That's a contributing factor. Could be a contributing factor. There's no doubt about that. But it's not whereas with alcohol, because they always say, people are overdosing on cannabis because they're really all they're doing is over consuming the cannabis. They're not overdosing because everybody relates overdosing like alcohol. If you drink too much alcohol, you can OD on alcohol, and die. Where or other drugs, but it's this doesn't happen with cannabis. It doesn't.
I think most of the problem, especially with the driving problem, is if you combine cannabis with alcohol, it magnifies the effects of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
It does. Yeah. And I think that definitely can lead to a problem. Even if you've had 3 or 4 beers and then you consume cannabis, there could be a problem if you're not used to it.
Yeah. All right, continue with the story.
When a person consumes cannabis, chooses to drive, and gets in a car accident and dies, the cause of death is driving while under the influence. Cannabis is a contributing factor, but the individual's choice to unsafely drive a car while consuming cannabis is the cause of death. Persons with underlying cardiac conditions must be mindful not to consume substances that can increase their heart rate, such as caffeine or cannabis. Research has found that for people with certain heart conditions, cannabis consumption can increase the chances of having a heart attack by around 4.8 times. When you have any health condition, it is important to speak with your doctor about what you consume.
The heart pulsations can have an issue with there. In toxicology, there is something called median lethal dose, LD50. A substance is tested to determine the specific titrate dose that consistently causes half the animals in a test group to die. This is called the LD50 of a substance. And this is this number I was talking about earlier. In research with dogs, it was determined that 3 grams of THC per kilogram, which is 2.2 pounds, of body weight is a deadly dose. Stating the findings of this research in another way, if the dosage were the same in people, a 140-pound individual would require 190 grams of THC to kill them. As a result, if you had a strain with a potency of 20%, you'd need 33 ounces of cannabis to activate the LD50 found in the study. Are you going to smoke that much? Are you going to eat that much?
Impossible. In September 88, Francis L. Young, administrative law judge for the Drug Enforcement Administration's the DEA, stated marijuana's LD50 is around one, I don't even know how this is.
1 in 20,000.
Yeah. 1 in 20,000 and 1 in 40,000. There you go. In order to induce death, cannabis smoker would have to consume 20 to 40,000 times as much cannabis as is contained in one marijuana cigarette. So you need to smoke 20,000 to 40,000 at one time.
Wow. At one time, exactly.
Yeah. A smoker would theoretically have to consume 1,500 pounds of cannabis within about 15 minutes to induce a lethal response. In strict medical terms, cannabis is far safer than many foods we commonly consume. For example, eating 10 raw potatoes can result in a toxic response. By comparison, it is physically impossible to eat enough cannabis to induce death.
Yeah, exactly. I will say there is one way. I will, and others have agreed with me on this. There is one way to die with I guess maybe this could be looked at as cannabis is involved. But like if you got crushed by it.
Yeah.
Let's say somebody had a ton of it or whatever, and it fell on you and crushed you. But would the cause of death be you died while being crushed by cannabis, but the cause of death may be actually that your brain was squished or whatever.
Yeah. I think I have heard people worry about edibles, and the amount of cannabis in them, and I think that might be one way that you could possibly ingest enough to kill yourself, but it would be really hard.
Well, as they even state in there, you'd have to eat all that.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking because they can bring the percentage of THC in a droplet down to 99, 98%, right? So if you cooked with that, you could theoretically kill yourself that way. But I've never met anybody who uses that to cook with. So, I mean, in theory, it's possible, but highly unlikely.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't happened. We know that. So, yeah. Where are we? Young assessment of cannabis safety led to cannabis being accepted for use with medical supervision. So, in short, you cannot die from being too high. However, if you overconsume cannabis, you might receive adverse side effects. I completely agree with that. There's no doubt about that. I've dealt with them myself. The answer to the question, can cannabis kill you, is no. A judge for the DEA determined that the amount of cannabis that needs to be consumed to reach an LD50 is so high that cannabis has no set LD50 for human overdose.
Yeah.
But it can contribute to deaths where consumed irresponsibly or there is an underlying health condition.
Well said.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's the end of the article, isn't it?
Yeah.
So no one's died from it, and that is, when they talk about these overdoses and stuff like that, that's because people think of overdosing as death. Someone consumes too much cocaine, they stop breathing and they die.
Yeah.
Someone drinks too much alcohol, they can die. Someone consumes some cannabis, they get really high, they can get sick.
And one of my things too was the control factor. If you're high on alcohol, it's not even close to the same thing as being high on cannabis.
Oh, nowhere. Well, that's where they, intoxication. Yeah. I could drink a beer and probably get really drunk.
But I probably would if I had a couple, 2 beers would for sure, because I barely drink, right?
Yeah, but there's no control when you've consumed too much. I've seen that. You've seen that. We all see that, right? Been there, watched it. bit experienced in it myself. Al, do you know that you did this? What? So yeah, you just never know. All right. You know what time it is?
My favorite time.
That's right. Your favorite time, the Mushie Moment. Yes. And we've got a story here that Cindy picked out her share of stories for today's broadcast, including this one here. And like I said, she's driving across. What do you think? She's in Ontario yet?
She might be, depending on what time she left. She was about 6 hours, maybe 5 hours from Ontario.
Okay, so it depends on when she left. So she's probably still in Quebec. All right, here we go. Mushie Moment article reads: Psilocybin is a mental health therapy? The question. Here's what I found.
A few weeks ago, I mentioned to a friend that I was interested in learning more about psychedelics, especially how they might help me with depression and anxiety. It's a broad category of plant medicines, including psilocybin, magic mushrooms, MDMA, which is ecstasy, DMT, which is Dimitri or the businessman's trip, ketamine, which is Special K, and some others. I'd be hesitant to be open about my research because I'm old enough to remember the warnings about bad trips that scramble your brain. Imagine my surprise when my friend told me that he'd recently taken his first trip, which he described as life-changing.
I asked him, a real estate developer living in Northern California, married with 3 kids, is who he is, just like everybody else, like a lot of other people, why he decided to try a psychedelic substance. He says, my work felt increasingly stale and meaningless. Despite a massive amount of reflection and coaching around how to break the rut, I felt as though I was still off track.
He and others who have used these medicines spoke on the condition of anonymity because most of their psychedelics are Schedule I substances, meaning they are illegal to manufacture, buy, possess, or distribute. When I confided my interest in psychedelics to a few other friends, several said they had tried the drugs and experienced several benefits, from easing anxiety to finding spiritual insights to combating depression, and among some with cancer, helping to reduce the fear of dying. Mm-hmm. They are hardly outliers, according to YouGov America study. 1 in 4 Americans say they've tried at least one psychedelic drug, according to some 72 million U.S. adults, amounting 72 million U.S. adults. The study included the medicines mentioned earlier, plus LSD, mescaline, and salvia. Was I missing a beat by not getting on board?
When I queried my psychiatrist about participating to help improve my mental health, he was supportive with 2 caveats. Do it with a trained therapist or guide and do your best to ensure the substance is what it's said to be. These days, it's hard not to see, hear, or read about the use of psychedelics, whether it's Michael Pollan's best-selling book, How to Change Your Mind, online advertisements for psychedelic spa trips, underground therapists, as referred to as sitters, with websites promising consciousness-expanding journeys, and a DIY online ketamine program with a medical professional tethered by video conferencing that you can do at home. Ketamine was approved by the Food and Drug Administration in 1970 as an anesthetic analgesic, which makes it legal to prescribe. For over 20 years, it's been prescribed off-label for depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues as a derivative. Ketamine, called esketamine, sold as Bravado, was approved by the FDA in 2019, specifically for depression, they say. Wow.
And the biggest advantage,
they changed the name. They just changed the name, right?
Like, that's exactly what they did. The biggest advance for depression in years, the FDA approves novel treatment for hardest cases. Recent clinical trials and studies, which have garnered big headlines, have shown efficacy in treating a variety of conditions such as depression, addiction, obsessive compulsive disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. And an increasing number of studies are underway. Intrigued but cautious, I wanted to know, Should I approach this in a smart and safe way? I started by interviewing Rick Doblin, founder and executive director of the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. He reminded me that, other than ketamine, none of these generally illegal psychedelics are approved by the FDA, so he would only talk about minimizing risks.
I don't want people to think that this is like going on a carnival ride. There's always a risk. Matthew Johnson, a psychiatry professor at the Johns Hopkins Center for Psychedelic and Consciousness Research, who has conducted numerous studies on psychedelics, also spoke to this issue of safety. To that point, Hopkins clinical trials screen out those with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or severe heart disease. I mentioned that, like millions of Americans, I'm taking an antidepressant, which is an SSR, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which is explained would probably mute the effects of psilocybin or MDMA. To partake of psychedelics, he told me I'd want to taper off the SSRIs first, which is best done with medical supervision, and which I've had trouble with in the past.
I wasn't suicidal until suddenly, terrifyingly, I was. I also have heart disease, so he cautioned me to speak with my cardiologist, who texted me that he knows nothing about the use of psychedelics. In other words, these drugs are not for everyone. Johnson reiterated that despite public testimonials about the positive therapeutic effects of psychedelic usage, there are dangers and it is illegal. While he was trying to discourage me, or was he trying to discourage me? Don't encourage anyone to do this on their own, he said. After researching this column, I'm not interested in taking this journey on my own, but assuming I'd have a guide or a therapist, where would I start? Dublin suggested that anyone with clinical indications such as depression, PTSD, or anxiety should go to clinicaltrials.gov to find any possibly participate in nearby studies. Recently, when I checked the database for psilocybin studies in the United States, 67 trials came up. All are being conducted at well-known academic medical centers, which means the studies are done with pure drugs approved by the FDA and licensed by the Drug Enforcement Administration, which means the trials have regulatory approval.
What about people without a clinical indication, but who are a spiritual quest? Here are the considerations I gleaned. Set and timing. Over and over, I heard this phrase, which refers to finding a healthy mindset and a relatively safe environment. For obvious reasons, Johnson called the rooftop of a tall building a bad idea, as is being around cars or sharp objects. I can agree with that. Yeah. Robert Mitchell, who has practiced psychedelic therapy and administered plant medicines for 30 years and has treated hundreds of clients, said, the most important thing is that you feel safe, comfortable, and will not be disturbed. Based in Los Angeles, he said he often has clients rent a cabin in the Santa Monica Mountains, which serves as a sacred space.
Find an experienced, trusted therapist. If you're seeking a psychedelic guide, word of mouth may be helpful. My friend, the real estate developer, said, for the first timer, I feel resolute in advising that others find a guide, ideally referred by someone you trust. Hopkins Johnson urges people not to take one of these psychedelic medications alone. Although there are still risks, it's less risky when someone is there who has knowledge of the identity of the substance and the dose. He said this can be especially critical for psilocybin mushrooms, which are known to have a great variation in their potency. New programs are available, such as the Psychedelic Assisted Therapies and Research Certificates program at the California Institute of Integral Studies, intended to serve the growing need for skilled psychedelic therapists to meet demand. I find it fascinating that they're having university courses, but it's still illegal.
And yeah, I know, right? Why didn't they do that with cannabis? But it's good that they're teaching people. It's good that they're teaching people. There's no doubt about that.
It is. I just find it fascinating that they can do that, like a course on something that's illegal.
Yeah, it's true. They say to ask questions ahead of time. Many therapists include a preparation session before any journey or treatment begins. Questions to discuss the prep session include a discussion of the therapist's background and expertise, your attention in taking a psychedelic medicine, your personal health history, how they might handle a problem that arises, the source of medicine, and of course, the fee. A Colorado woman gave me this advice. I would make sure to work with a therapist who has experience and a clear protocol for using psychedelics, including pre-journey discussions and post-journey integration appointments. A lot of this sounds like what Cindy went through when she went out west for her iboga.
Yeah, I would really like to have talked to her about this article. This seemed to hit home for her here.
This is probably why she picked this out, and yeah.
Know what you're ingesting. Dublin says there's one DEA licensed facility in the United States, Drug Detection Laboratories. It accepts anonymous samples of illegal drugs and will analyze them and post the results online. You send it in with a specific code and pay a fee for the analysis. Barring that, you'll want to talk with potential guides about the source of their substances. Mitchell told me that he knows where his psilocybin mushrooms are farmed and can vouch for their purity. In the end, one friend who has 2 psilocybin sessions said he had to rely on the guide and trust, and the trust engendered. That's always going to be imperfect.
They say do your homework. MAPS is an educational nonprofit group which first phase 3 study on the effective use of psilocybin for severe cases of PTSD was published last year in the Nature Medicine, a top peer-reviewed journal. The organization publishes information about the function, uses, and legality of psychedelics. It offers an introductory course, Psychedelic Fundamentals. Another resource is the MAPS Code of Ethics of Psychedelic Psychotherapy, which discusses psychology, and physical effects. So, will I take the psychedelic journey? What do you think, Glenn?
Well, I think I would like to try this. I would definitely talk to Cindy beforehand and get some pointers, especially she knows people that are doing these treatments. So I definitely think it's something I would look forward to in the future.
Yeah, well, just never know. So I'm sure that this fella here, as it says, he says he's reading everything to get his hands on and talking to everyone. And he says check back here in a few months, so stay tuned. So stay tuned, as he says. There's going to be a follow-up to this and see what happens.
Great story.
Yeah.
Interesting. Like I said, I learn new stuff every single time I do this show. Every time.
Well, you know how I always say, news can be very educational.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, people can learn things through the news. So what's up for the rest of your day? That's it. We're done.
The rest of the day is looking open to me. I want to go outside and enjoy some of the warm weather while we still have it.
You're going to take a bike ride, aren't you?
Well, I have to go with the wife today, so I can't be on my bike.
Oh.
But I was on it this morning already, so.
Okay, good. All right.
My son goes to school, and I drive with him.
As you ride out together. Sure, why not? Yep. Well, that's a Reefer report from the Legacy420.com news desk for September the 8th, 2022. And as we close out the show, we'd like to say thank you to our sponsors, Legacy420, BMAHydroponics.com, Dr. Buck, CTS.com. Talking about Dr. Buck tomorrow, Friday afternoon. I'm going to be broadcasting live from Dr. Buck's garden. We're going to get an update on things. He's creating a B&B and stuff like that. So I'm going to go check it out. So watch that here on the network. And also thanks to the Campbellford Life.
I can't wait to see that garden, how it's grown.
Grown. That's the goal. And then we're going to go back again before harvest and see how everything's grown again.
Nice.
So, yeah. Let's see. Thanks for our watchers for tuning in to the program. Other than that, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's lovely.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our Hydroponics Superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.